Back with you tonight here on In Focus as we continue with our coverage on the ongoing United States elections, where millions of Americans are out to elect their next leader. I'm now joined by Dr. Krista Johnson, a director at the Center for African Studies. Dr. Johnson, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. It's said that the younger voter, the Gen Zs, are likely going to be a big player in the outcomes of these particular elections. Looking at the campaign trail, the turnout at rallies, but also looking at the lines today of those who would be lining up to vote, is that sentiment correct? Is it justified? Are we seeing that kind of turnout?
Well, I think we are. I know certainly on Howard University's campus, the young students and the young folks are energized and excited to participate in this election and to have their voices heard. I think there are a number of issues that have kind of come up on the campaign trail this season that younger voters are very interested in. The issue of women's rights, the issue of immigration and the economy. So people are looking for to turn the page. People are looking for a new future. And I think you'll see a good turnout for young people this time.
Yeah. The polls have been throwing a lot of people off. They're saying you can't really tell with these polls at this time around. But what conclusions are you reaching, I suppose, in the early vote?
Well, it's a little bit hard sitting here in Washington, D.C., because we are a little bit in a bubble. So, but I think certainly at this stage, the polls have been pretty much a dead heat, for a couple of weeks now. I think that what everyone is saying, I think it's really quite remarkable to see the turnout that we've had just in the early voting. I think that bodes well just for our democracy, that people are taking this seriously and then wanting to have their voices heard. I don't want to speculate, what the outcome is going to be, but I think that it's a positive sign that people are engaged and certainly taking these issues seriously and wanting to have their voices heard.
Previously, it would have been, I suppose, quite easy to tell because the trend would have been in early voting. Democrats would show up there. Republicans usually would like to actually be on the lines and go and vote there. So when the counting starts, the early votes that would come in would reflect, of course, the sentiment of the Democrats. And at a later stage, as you continue, you begin to see those Republican votes coming in. But there's also the independent factor coming to play here. Those who would otherwise, especially women, be independent voters, voting differently this time. What is that likely outcome going to be?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, that's exactly right. There's a lot that has been made about some of the shifts in terms of the constituencies that typically vote Democrat or maybe typically vote Republican. On the Democrat side, we've heard a lot about Harris's kind of dwindling support among Black men in particular. And there was a big issues made of that a few weeks ago, at least. Of course, Black men still overwhelmingly, or certainly in large numbers, support the Democratic ticket. But there was a lot of speculation that even if Trump could peel off a few thousand votes, that would be very, very significant. The other key demographic really for the Democrat and the Republican Party is white women, in fact. So that's also a kind of a swing vote that we're really not too sure how that's going to play out. Harris is expecting that you're going to have a number of those independents and even Republican women who in this election have decided that reproductive rights are so important in their lives and for the country that they're going to support the Harris ticket this time. But that's all speculation at this time. And what's so important and why this is so important is that of the 7 swing states or key swing states that we have, the margin of error and the election is likely to be determined really by thousands of votes as opposed to tens or even hundreds of thousands of votes.
Yeah, we were looking at Georgia just moments ago. This is one of the swing states with 16 electoral votes, very important. But what has happened here is that the voting habits have changed because of the new arrivals who are moving into Georgia because of economic reasons, the movie industry and so on and so forth. So this is a younger and more diverse audience, others saying liberal in its leaning. How is that playing out into I suppose, those numbers that otherwise Georgia would have been a Republican state, but we did see Joe Biden winning that by some 12,000 votes.
Indeed. So this time it's a toss-up. It was a toss-up last time. It's quite possible that Georgia will go blue this time. It's been a red state for a while. I guess last time it was a purple state, but we'll see if they're able to maintain that. Certainly, as you alluded to, the growing demographics, particularly in the urban areas, in the cities like Atlanta and whatnot, have tended to favor the Democratic Party. It's a younger generation, a younger population, and a more diverse population. But there is also, there's some issues. It's be interesting to see how these things play out, because I think that we shouldn't necessarily, or the Democrats shouldn't necessarily assume that they're going to get that younger and more diverse vote. We see this in other states like Arizona and Nevada, where the Republicans have been somewhat successful, it seems, at courting some of the Latino and Hispanic vote out there. So it's interesting. I think we're in a bit of a transition moment in terms of our politics. I think both of these parties are really going to have to do some significant rethinks after this election and really kind of recalibrate what their constituency and what their winning constituency is going to look like.
So I read a number, I think it said 78 million early votes. It could be, or maybe a little bit more, but a large number of those would have been women. Now, Kamala Harris appealing to women. Donald Trump, not so much. How significant is that going to be for him?
I think that's going to be significant. I've heard a lot of pundits and commentators say that it will come down to the woman vote. If he has alienated enough women, independent, moderate, and Republican women, that is going to be crucial. That will absolutely lose him the vote. And especially, of course, it's going to be crucial in the battleground states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin.
Yeah. How easy a race is it for Kamala in Pennsylvania? Because I believe for her, that's a make or break moment. Donald Trump, maybe Georgia would be quite important, but Pennsylvania certainly for Kamala Harris.
Indeed. Well, I don't know if you all were watching this morning, but there were long lines in Philadelphia at the polling stations this morning, which is a very good sign for the Harris campaign, because Philadelphia is a stronghold of Democratic supporters and voters. So the more turnout that she can get in those constituencies, the better that she will perform in Pennsylvania as a whole.
Dr. Johnson, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for your intervention tonight here on In Focus. That is Dr. Krista Johnson there with the Director for Center for African Studies at the Howard University.